In today's video, I am going to talk about one of the lesser known facts of the September 11th terrorist attacks, which is regarding the day before the attacks, being September 10th, 2001. On the evening of September 10th, 2001, while millions of Americans were finishing another ordinary Monday, one man was making what would become one of the most closely examined journeys in modern history. His name was Mohamed Atta. By that point, the planning for the September 11th attacks was complete. The airline tickets have been purchased, the teams were in position, yet instead of spending the night near Boston Logan Airport, Atta boarded a short commuter flight to Portland, Maine. More than 2 decades later, investigators still cannot say with certainty why he traveled to Portland, Maine. On the evening of September 10th, Mohamed Atta and fellow hijacker Abdulaziz al-Omari boarded a U.S. Airways Express flight from Boston to Portland. The flight lasted less than an hour. To airline employees and fellow passengers, nothing appeared unusual. The two men blended in with dozens of other travelers making short regional trips across New England. The flight landed at Portland International Jetport shortly after sunset, and what happened next would later become a major focus on the FBI investigation. After landing, Atta and al-Omari rented a blue Nissan Altima from the airport. From there, they drove only a few miles to the Comfort Inn in South Portland. Hotel records showed they checked into room 233 shortly after arriving. Employees later told investigators that nothing about the pair stood out. From sources, they were polite. They spoke very little. They paid cash for the room. And like every other guest that evening, they appeared to be ordinary travelers spending the night before an early flight. Investigators found no evidence that anyone met them at the hotel. There was no planning meetings that took place. No additional conspirators arrived. And as far as investigators could determine, they spent the evening alone. Another interesting fact was that later that evening, Atta and al-Omari left the hotel to eat dinner at a nearby Pizza Hut. Employees who later spoke with investigators remembered nothing unusual. The two men ordered food, ate their meal, and returned to the hotel. And, this is obviously their final meal before they did the attacks. It would become one of the final confirmed public sightings of Mohamed Atta before the attacks. Investigators believe that sometime during the night, Atta reviewed a handwritten document now known as the Last Night Instructions. The document contained religious reminders and practical guidance intended for the hijackers as they prepared for the mission the next morning. Similar copies would later be recovered from other members of the group. Before sunrise of September 11th, Atta and al-Omari checked out of the hotel and drove back to Portland International Jetport. Security cameras captured Atta walking calmly through the terminal carrying a small bag. Those images would become some of the final photographs ever taken of him. The pair boarded Culligan Air Flight 5930, a 19-seat commuter aircraft headed to Boston, and the flight lasted only about 35 minutes. After landing at Boston Logan Airport, they crossed the terminal and boarded American Airlines Flight 11. But one small detail changed the course of the investigation. Atta's checked suitcase did not make the connection. Because the commuter flight arrived so close to Flight 11's departure, the luggage remained behind in Boston. Inside were flight training materials, identification documents, personal belongings, and the handwritten instructions investigators later used to help reconstruct the plot. Many FBI investigators would later describe that suitcase as one of the earliest and most important pieces of evidence recovered after the attacks. To hotel employees, restaurant workers, airline staff, and other travelers, September 10th, 2001 appeared completely ordinary, as to, obviously, millions of other Americans. Only after the attacks did investigators realize they had unknowingly witnessed the final movements of the man who led one of the deadliest attacks in American history. The trip to Maine remains one of the last documented chapters before September 11th, a quiet journey that ultimately helped investigators piece together how the attacks were carried out. So that is going to do it for today's video, just touching base on a lesser known fact of the September 11th attacks. If you want to learn more about history and lesser known history facts, please subscribe to the channel for more.